And with this general, there is a concern nonetheless. And I wish perhaps that he would make his mea culpa if he was sent and understand that this is not the right mission. If he was deceived, let him say it publicly, or otherwise ask the Senate he was wrong. Or also, if it is a bad intention, well, we will confront him properly because of everything he has said.
Absolutely, Chairman. I see this, and I don't mind calling them out, but Captain Traoré and Burkina Faso, as they know that both, whether it's their gold reserves, that is all those proceeds are just in exchange to protect the junta regime.
It is lies, and it is very disgraceful to see an adult lie, to see an adult general officer of a large army. It is Burkina's gold. It doesn't concern him. Because Burkina has never had a gold reserve until we arrived. We were the ones who started saving gold at Burkina Faso's treasury. Otherwise, there was not a single large gold reserve in Burkina. It means he is a liar again. And the part that hurt me the most was deeply personal, not because he holds the title of a general or because he's American, but for the simple yet profound reason that he is a black man, and it is very painful to see they use a black man to fight against another black man.
Your Excellency, we warmly welcome you to Sputnik Africa and express our gratitude for accepting our invitation, which is a great honor for our esteemed agency. Thank you. Your Excellency, therefore, your visit is taking place within the framework of the celebrations on the occasion of the 80th anniversary. To honor and commemorate Russia's significant and heroic victory in the Great Patriotic War, you enthusiastically attended the grand military parade held yesterday on Red Square. What do you take away from this experience? What was the scale of the celebrations, in your opinion? Perhaps you could tell me which equipment impressed you most.
All right. Thank you very much for your assistance and for clearly outlining the context provided in this situation. It is indeed the celebration of Russia's victory. So in the Great Patriotic War, as it is said, the bravery of soldiers was truly unmatched. We were greatly impressed by the elaborate and vibrant parade yesterday. Because the parade started entirely with motorized units, prominently featuring the vehicles, particularly the impressive Mythic Char T-34 tank, it showcased innovation that contributed to the victory. And up to today, to recent equipment, the T-90 and of course other types of missiles that have been developed. It impressed us greatly, taught us many important lessons, and allowed us to fully understand in detail how Russia has significantly evolved technologically on the military front over the past decade. Life has been unchanged since that great war until today.
All right. Mr. President, and why has it been important for you to respond to President Putin's invitation and join Russia in these celebrations?
This invitation holds significant importance for me for various reasons, foremost being that it comes from a friendly and welcoming country that I admire. Russia and Burkina Faso today are engaged in a close collaboration effort. Our cooperation is quite strategic, so that means we must come together to develop a comprehensive plan, therefore to participate alongside the Russian people. Secondly, in this same war, numerous key battles were fiercely fought. Our ancestors also contributed. The liberation of Europe in this war, fighting against Nazism, this means that we share a common history. In the celebration of this victory, it is very important. Another thing is that today, Russia and Burkina Faso are in the same fight. We have a world that I can clearly and accurately describe as unilateral. We want a multipolar world. We want a free, independent world, a peaceful world where nations do not dictate, so that other nations do not dictate what they must do and how they must be. So Russia is actively engaged in this significant and challenging fight, which is also an important battle against the rising threat of Nazification, if I may say. We too are in this same type of fight against imperialism that wants to enslave us, that wants to keep us in bondage. We share the same perspectives, which makes it very symbolic that we have chosen to come and participate alongside the Russian people in this celebration today.
Notably, the Soviet people greatly contributed to defeating Nazism, and Burkina Faso, as you rightly say, they are applying substantial efforts today to fight against and fully eradicate terrorism worldwide. Do you see similarities between our two peoples, and how does that manifest more concretely?
Yes, I have learned many lessons during this celebration. There are many similarities in the struggle we are currently leading. Look closely at the resilient Soviet people who selflessly sacrificed nearly 27 million of their lives during the devastating war years. To achieve this glorious victory, at some critical point they could have declared that it was enough, signed the armistice and given up. But their unwavering courage, persistent tenacity and steadfast resilience motivated them to continue the arduous and prolonged fight, and they ultimately won. Our dedicated Burkinas have been tirelessly fighting against terrorism for 10 arduous years, striving to ensure lasting peace and stability within our nation. It's not that there are no deaths, there have been many deaths from that time until today, but we do not give up because we know that we will achieve victory and we continue this fight. So there is this state of mind that unites us, and so in light of the current circumstances, that's also proving to be very interesting right now.
Furthermore, in what detailed ways would you analyze the considerable influence that the Soviet Union's victory in World War II had on the extensive process of global decolonization that followed? What would have happened if we had tried to imagine the possible outcomes in that particular situation earlier? They would have moved to Africa if Nazism had won.
Without a doubt, I can say that has contributed a significant amount. So if Nazism had won, I can't imagine how drastically different our world would be today. But I imagine, that historically people did not respect black individuals as they should have. Even today, this lack of respect continues. We have always referred to black people in different contexts. At a certain level, they actually treated those individuals as if they were animals. You have followed the stories of colonization, of slavery. Black people were tortured. They are exposed in cages like wild animals in Europe. Black people were forcibly castrated by authorities to prevent them from having offspring. Black people were systematically and brutally treated as less than animals during certain historical periods. As you may know, extensive research in Congo has revealed that cardboard costs more than a black person's skin. They preferred to dry the rubber under a black person's skin rather than pay for cardboard to dry the rubber. Black people suffered greatly from slavery for centuries and centuries. Colonization. And this war, you see, we came to take our ancestors without their consent, putting them on the front lines to be slaughtered. And upon returning, did you learn what happened in Senegal? When they wanted to claim their money, they were killed. That is to say, they do not consider black people. And as for that, they went to fight alongside so-called allies who treat them like that. But imagine if Nazism had won. That would have been a catastrophe. So that's why I said it was a struggle to carry out. It was true madness in the world. It was a struggle to carry out, and Africa participated. And today we can genuinely say thank you to the remarkable Soviet people who made the greatest sacrifice for our country's freedom and its future generation. No one has lost as many men or experienced as much destruction during the war as the Soviet people. So we are grateful, and I believe it was necessary. For the world today, it is essential that Africa can also hope to continue its development and growth.
Thank you very much for your response. You recently stated that Burkina Faso will be the tomb of terrorism. Are you imposing concrete deadlines to completely defeat it? And how do you see future Russian assistance regarding this? One of the main pillars of the Russian-Burkina Faso partnership.
I say this because Burkina's way of working focuses on collaboration and achieving common goals. Today there are many others. The criminals they recruit to come fight in Burkina Faso, this is not terrorism, I don't know how to describe it, it's criminality. These are bandits armed by the imperialists to destabilize us, to keep us in a state of permanent war and exploit us. And so, as I said, we are working to make Burkina Faso the temple of terrorism. When recruiting someone to come fight in Burkina, they would rather commit suicide, and that will happen because we equip them, train them, and provide them with technology, these criminals. But we are constantly adapting. Currently, we are in a rather unique phase. They have acquired new technologies, new combat techniques, and everything. Thanks to the continued support of those imperialists, we have thoroughly studied the current situation, and we will respond immediately and effectively to all of this. So you will clearly see our actions unfold shortly. Terrorism will end. I don't want to give a time frame, but terrorism will end. And very quickly, as quickly as we can. Russia, all we are respectfully asking for is primarily intellectual support, extensive and comprehensive assistance to intellectually train and more effectively develop our advanced military industry sector capabilities. That we must develop and help train young people in all we can develop to face that war. This is the aspect that interests us the most.
And more concretely, which material, perhaps which equipment interests you the most?
First of all, I would like to express my sincere gratitude, as Russia stands out among the few exceptional countries that truly make a significant impact in our world today. Those who have taken military equipment are here to come and provide us assistance to wage war. So that is significant, apart from Russia and China. It's the same situation. Elsewhere they want to pay, but they refuse to sell to us. But here they understood that we are at war. Russia is also conducting its special operation. We know it's not easy. But if in that they were able to take equipment, come and give it to Burkina Faso, I believe that is already very important. However, as I have previously mentioned, Russia is actively contributing significant resources and expertise to train all these comrades effectively and efficiently. The Russian military trains Burkinabe forces on the use of this equipment, But we want to continue to develop our own military industry with the support of Russia, which has a significant lead. In terms of armaments on the global stage, I would say that it is imperative for us to engage in this close collaboration to ensure that we can continue to progress effectively.
Thank you very much for your continued support. Over this past year, the Sahel region has been marked by numerous significant and transformative changes. In each of the AES countries, particularly, for example, a definitive break with the CDAO was formally executed and thoroughly integrated into policy. They additionally proceeded with the adoption of their own symbols, including the distinctive Koumend flag. In this context, how would you comprehensively describe Burkina Faso before and after the events, and how do you assess the current Sahel states' strategic alliance? As a regional cooperation framework, are there likely future plans for expansion initiatives?
Yes. To understand the AES today, one only needs to look at African youth. I think that African youth are hopeful that it is a great model. And we, as the dedicated leaders of the AIS, find ourselves increasingly under significant pressure, and it is absolutely imperative that we must diligently achieve success in our current endeavors. Because Africa now needs to sign the agreement. We were in an organization. It was supposed to be a relationship where there is solidarity, cooperation, mutual aid and all. But you cannot be in an organization where you call each other brothers. And at some point they cut the electricity so that the sick die in the hospital, and that the economy, they close the banks each evening so that you cannot have access to anything until the next day. Your habitual money transfers are made to purchase the minimum living expenses. We prevent that from happening to certain Sahelian peoples. We have even formed an army to come and fight the Sahelian population. While terrorism has been rampant for decades, they are unable to raise a single soldier to come and fight. They are not brothers, we must not deceive ourselves. And it's not the peoples, it's the leaders. Otherwise the peoples, when you look even these ECOWAS countries, the peoples support and understand the languages of the AIS. So it comforts us to structure ourselves to be a model, in order that the future may indeed peacefully fade away into something beyond our current understanding. But to expand, we need to establish strong foundations. And that is exactly what we are currently undertaking, and this process is one of the key reasons that led us to withdraw and meticulously restructure ourselves in order to effectively relaunch.
Mr. President, for many people living in Africa, in fact, you clearly embody more than just the traditional role of a country's president, but serves as the embodiment of Pan-African renewal movement. Why, in the current era, does Africa have a particularly strong need for a new visionary leader like Thomas Sankara to inspire progress? At only 37 years old, how does it feel for you to bear all of this significant responsibility placed upon you?
While age itself may not hold significant importance, I can certainly attest to the pressure that accompanies it. It's that very pressure which you should avoid accepting outright, to make a grandiose folly out of it. It's pressure. For me, it's a message that the youth is passing to me, and it adds more pressure on me. If I could manage to sleep 2 hours, I have limited my sleep time to only 1 hour, and if an individual should not sleep, they ought to cease sleeping completely because others have noticed certain actions that we are currently undertaking. According to them, it can allow Africa to prosper, to get out of this situation, and it encourages us, it motivates us again to continue the struggle. That's why I said it was pressure. It is a very heavy responsibility, and I can promise you everything we can do with all our abilities to handle it. It is not about betrayal, but about continuing our committed Pan-African fight for unity and progress together. We sincerely hope that it can therefore proceed successfully. It is essential to actively engage all African youth so that the Pan-Africanism we so dearly desire can genuinely become a reality, especially because Africa has suffered greatly. It is time for us to finish, work and develop, instead of Africans going elsewhere, seeing the world begin everything it has. In Africa, achieving our goals is indeed possible, and that is why it has become our mission.
And we will take responsibility. More and more African countries are claiming sovereignty. They are demanding the withdrawal of Western troops from their soil. Recently, for example, Chad, Senegal and the Ivory Coast have made significant moves. In your well-informed opinion, what specific actions or policies led the West to go wrong in its complex relations with the African continent?
Well, what I personally know is every aspect of our current situation and its implications. We were fully engaged in the war, living side by side with the Western troops and managing everything. After careful observation, we saw and decided to part ways with those troops because their involvement doesn't align with the struggle. On the contrary, it significantly amplifies the phenomenon. The other countries that have separated, I can't comment because they have decided to separate. But afterwards, President Macron said that he was the one who told them to find the formula and all that. I can't get into that debate. Only they know the truth. But one thing is certain, we are unable to discuss sovereignty. Additionally, we aim to have a robust army from our country stationed directly on our own soil to ensure national security. That directive clearly dictates to us exactly what actions need to be taken. The economy and education are the foundation on which all the development of a country is built. Thus, each country should work on developing its army to be sovereign and independent. So that's what we are doing. When I take the case of Burkina Faso, these armies have been present and they contributed to killing the Burkinabe army. We stopped recruiting. They are the ones who decide how many to recruit. There were no more weapons, no equipment. Even in the 80s under Sankara, we were better equipped than we would be 10 or even 20 years later. And in the end, terrorism ultimately came back forcefully. When terrorism arrived, we unfortunately didn't have an adequate army. It is a suffering until the day it arrives. During times of war, we are actively creating a formidable army. So it is completely normal that the process takes some time and we may suffer, but despite these challenges, we must diligently create a strong army. And this relentless ongoing war must ultimately emerge victorious in the end. When I look at the statistics of the Soviet army, the number of men they lost, yes, at the end of the war they emerged very large. And today, no army has the equipment that the Russian army has. So we too must learn from our war. At the end of the war, we must be very strong. Sovereignty begins with the army. Once you have a strong army, all other facets can easily develop. That is what ultimately led Burkina to separate from its previous union.
All right. Another topic that continues to persist and remains actually very important is the Ukrainian issue. Russia has formally declared itself ready to negotiate without any preconditions, while Ukraine continually imposes constraints. Furthermore, Kiev supports terrorists in the Sahel. Who doesn't want peace for our two countries, in your opinion?
I believe that well before the present time, the Turkish President Erdogan had successfully developed a comprehensive and effective framework for sustained dialogue and meaningful cooperation. I think the two presidents met in due time. It was only at the beginning of the operation. All of us held steadfast hope that everything would work out smoothly, that the weapons would finally fall silent, and that ultimately everyone would return to good feelings and harmonious relationships together once more. But it was the Western countries who urgently came to tell the Ukrainian president not to accept the proposal. We followed that, and in the end, what does it lead to? But I think all of this falls within the realm of manipulation. I think they've been manipulated. Otherwise, the Ukrainian and Russian people were part of the Soviet Union. They are brothers. How is it possible that humans are able to cultivate and foster deep hatred? Russophobia exists within this population. It is crucial to recognize that the war did not start in 2022. Instead, it actually began back in 2014. Moreover, this is a reality that many people may not know, or that we refuse to say that the war started in 2014. Today, we are truly surprised to witness that many people may be actively passing the buck on Russia and all that. When they were bombing Russian-speaking civilians in 2014, that's what he's talking about. There are images that are still there. People were locked inside houses, burned. There are images that exist. But action was needed all this time. They were manipulated. And today, reality is here. You see all the aid being given. It's not aid. We said to give the 1,000 euros. In reality, Ukraine no longer belongs to Ukrainians. We manipulated them and they come out losers. All sectors will be managed by those who led them into this war. He had been inspired to weaken Russia. But Russia will be even greater in this war. So I think they must understand that and come back to reason to have negotiations and reach peace. Because they declared that they support terrorists. Have you all followed that? It is also seen on the ground that they are effectively supporting terrorists. This is not a good war. I think he is very much wrong, at least. They must come to their senses. Anyway, they can support it. Us, we will fight it and we will win. So, if they haven't understood until today that all this maneuver, it was to collapse them and seize their critical minerals, they can continue the war. That's what I can say about the situation. Every people must understand. One must avoid being manipulated. He was getting into a very complicated situation. That's a bit of what I can say.
Thank you very much for your detailed and thoughtful response. Additionally, could you please share your insights on the Sputnik News Agency and elaborate on its significant role within the broader African media landscape? In what ways are these contents attractive to African listeners? And what is the main difference with mainstream media?
The press is very important communication. You know that it is through these that we condition the minds of the people. So you already play a very important role by bringing out a substantial portion of truth, history and the present, thereby deepening our collective understanding and appreciation of these essential aspects. We must persist in this direction to awaken collective consciousness because you see, all these Western presses and all that media significantly shape our perceptions. have contributed to numbing the consciousness of African peoples. It's their narrative that prevails. We have realized through careful study and consistent observation that they often deliberately invent big, significant, and detailed lies to deceive and mislead others effectively, just to divide the people, in order to allow their politicians to act and do whatever they want, thereby preparing the ground and all necessary foundations. It becomes essential for you to strategically create the complete antithesis of everything that they do. That is to say, contribute to awakening consciousness, and you have an important role to play. Especially in Africa itself, Africans can truly understand their rich and diverse history, awaken to the truth, and therefore cease believing the deceptive lies propagated by these Western media outlets. You see, when it doesn't suit them, when we tell them the truth, they shut down the media. And in our country, when a media outlet is shut down, it becomes a big problem. And what's unfortunate is to see even Africans supporting that. Over there, they shut down media outlets whenever they don't approve. These same people don't speak out. But when we shut down the media, you see Africans, supposed intellectuals on stage doing, we don't know what they've taken, but it's dangerous. So you have a very important role to play. And all the media, by the way, to awaken the consciousness of Africans. I say that we are here so that the youth wake up. We are not here with the goal of seeking to loot or anything. We want to build Africa. If the youth are not awakened, we will put them to sleep. These Western media are singing our praises, saying we're fine, we're fine. No, that is false. We want to make sure that when we are not feeling fine, we know that we are not fine, and that other people take over. But when they also lie to say that we're not fine, we will prove the opposite. Therefore, continue to actively communicate and effectively raise awareness across various communities in Africa.
Thank you very much. In response to the recent statement made by the AFRICOM commander before their testimony at the American Senate, your government has reacted firmly and decisively, denouncing unfounded accusations about the sovereign choices of Burkina Faso. What is your response to this situation, especially addressing Washington, who continues to question the overall legitimacy involved here? Legitimacy of your current partnerships, particularly with Russia, and how do you intend to defend the image of Burkina Faso on the international stage in the face of such discourse?
In any case, we are free to establish relationships with whom we want. That's independence. So on this aspect, they can continue to think what they want. We will go where we want. That's provided that this partnership can be mutually beneficial for each of the parties. As for these remarks, as you previously stated, we officially lodged our formal protest through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and that represents one aspect. But currently, I don't have any information about the specific events that transpired involving that particular general. There remains an unresolved problem in our current circumstances. Therefore, I might consider that it would be preferable for her to execute her most effective move in this situation. If we should decide to send him, please ensure that he fully understands it is not the right mission. If we deceived him, let them say so publicly, or if we ask the Senate that he made a mistake. Or do you also mean if it possibly has a bad intention? We will confront him as necessary because everything he said requires our response. It's lies. It's very ugly to see an adult lying, to see an adult general officer from a great army lying. It's very serious. First, he discussed the valuable gold from Burkina Faso, explaining how it is utilized in various applications that serve as essential tools and resources for our personal and collective protection strategies. First, it's Burkina's gold. It's not his gold. That's the first thing. What does it have to do with him? I have nothing to do with it. It's Burkina. It's Burkina's gold. I have nothing to do with it. The second thing he told me during our comprehensive discussion is that Burkina Faso had never possessed a gold reserve until our team's arrival in the country. It's us who started to reserve their gold, the treasury of Burkina Faso. There wasn't a single gram of reserve in Burkina. That indicates that he is still a liar. Another thing to consider is that when he states we use it to protect ourselves and everything else, emphasizing our freedom, it implies that if the people have chosen to govern it, then our liberties are preserved accordingly. We have the duty to protect ourselves, so we're free. How does that concern him? And the specific aspect was the one that really hurt me the most significantly. It's not because he is a general or because he is an American or for any other reason. It's because he is black. It is extremely painful to witness situations where a black individual is utilized to engage in conflict against another black individual. Moreover, this issue did not originate recently. It must come to an end. It's very dangerous. Even Libya. Who destroyed Libya? They used a black person again. In movies, in the past, among Americans, black people always played the bad role, but we thought it was just in the movie. But why do brave black people continue to play the bad roles? I think that if he heard this interview, he needs to look at himself in a mirror. Be ashamed, come forward and say that a false report was made against me. I regret it. He must say it publicly. If it's a false report, we did it. Because it's possible. It's possible that we made a false report because you followed. When I take our neighbor, again, as I say among ourselves, the Ivorian Minister of Defense, who is traveling going to Turkey to see the Turkish Minister of Defense on December 10th, you see how it hurts. When it's a black person acting like that, it hurts a lot. Did we make a false report? What kind of denial? If we sent him to create a problem in Burkina, as they are used to doing, well, we will thoroughly get ourselves fully ready and patiently wait for them, because it absolutely needs to come to a definite halt now. It is imperative that the black race not be used to fight black people. Every time is the same thing, and this is what we deplore, and it hurt us a lot to see that it was a black person. It's true that they can regret it through several channels that they try to tighten. But no, it has been said publicly, and we must make our amends publicly as well. That is precisely how we are now. We are no longer engaging in diplomatic hypocrisy. As we like to say, we make very strong statements on significant topics. Afterwards, we must follow by saying no, sincerely apologizing and acknowledging that we have nothing further to offer. This response must be made publicly. So I wholeheartedly invite them to make sincere amends and to publicly acknowledge their actions, because African youth have clearly understood, and black youth around the world have equally comprehended the significance of this matter. This manipulation will no longer work. It has always been the case. Using false alibis to hope to achieve other objectives, it no longer works. So it's regrettable, but Burkina remains in its lineage. We will continue to develop. He forgot to mention everything we are doing for Burkina. What we are doing, no regime has achieved it. There, the socio-economic development of Burkina. We are constructing numerous health centers, each fully equipped with advanced medical equipment and comprehensive examinations, and lowering the costs of medical examinations. Which regime has done the same? No one. We are actively working on agriculture, plowing farmers' fields for free. Our production has increased. Who did this? Nobody. The army has shown us in degrees. A new army, the Buddhist army, has never been so well equipped in personnel and equipped in terms of equipment as now. Who did it? No government in matters of employment. No government has created as many jobs as we have through industrialization. Maybe that's what bothers him, that he wants to stop it. We have to invent lies. In any case, I invite them to review their papers. There you go, that's all I can say. It was a big lie, and it's regrettable.